Hey, I'm Steve Krenz from Guitar Gathering. Hey, welcome to this quick little tip on taking your playing from two-dimensional to 3D, okay? Adding some dimension to your playing, adding some groove, adding some power to your playing. You know, a lot of younger players, they wrestle with just kind of a one static sound, and that's not what we're going for. We're going to try and go for something more than that. So, if you can, let's dive into this concept. Hey, if you like the content that we are doing, make sure and click that subscribe button, and that will allow you, whenever we go live, which is usually Tuesday and Wednesday nights, that you will be able to get our live broadcast when we do that. So, all right, let's jump into some content. A lot of players, when they play, they're used to playing, you know, in their room or on their couch or something like that. So they get into a little bit of a bad habit of just playing just kind of weak. They may be playing okay, but it's just soft. It's just weak. So you get them in any sort of a real playing situation, and they don't really have what they need to do to be able to speak on the instrument. So one of the key aspects of being more stable in your playing is the issue of dynamics. Generally, when we're just playing for ourselves, we play too quiet. We play just too softly. When we should be playing a lot more loud. Our instruments were made to speak at a louder volume. It just doesn't work when I go. So if you're having a lighter grip on your pick, and your pick has a tendency to make a lot of pick noise like that, okay? You're gripping it too light. Grip it a little bit more. You should have about a centimeter of pick showing, and give a good down strum like you're meant to be heard. So that sounds like a small thing. It's a major thing, especially when you're a younger player and a less experienced player. I remember I was taking music lessons in college, and my classical guitar instructor, he would say, play louder. And so I'd try and play a little bit louder. He'd say, no, you don't get it. He said, what you think and what you are used to as the normal speaking volume of the instrument is too low. What you think is your bass level is too low. The instrument was meant to speak louder than that. And so in general, I would say that is a trap that a lot of guitar players fall into. Your guitar can take some strong playing. I was watching a video today from some studio guys from Rascal Flatts' band, and they were doing kind of a remake of their Life is a Highway song, you know, and they were doing it. And one thing that's about that, with all those guitars on that, it's aggressive. It wasn't meant to be played down. It was meant to be played out. So part of that has to do with confidence. Part of it has to do with just physically getting used to the feel of your guitar played strongly. So when we try and accompany others, a singer or something like that, if we're not solid, if we're not confident, I'm not talking about necessarily just volume for volume's sake, but if there's not a backbone in our playing, then the singer will feel unsure, unsteady. And our job as an accompanist is to make them feel secure. Okay, so the first thing I would say to add some power and groove to your playing is to physically attack the instrument a little bit stronger than what you're used to. Now, if your strings are buzzing and things like that, then you may need to get your action set a little bit higher or something like that, so when you dig in, that your instrument can take this. So part of the digging in and volume is you're adding to the upper end of your playing. But one of the things that's going to take your playing from just static, 2D, black and white, and take it into color and 3D is there's a couple of things that you can do as a player. One of them is dynamics. Okay, dynamics, that's what we're talking about. You can get a little bit louder than you're generally used to getting, okay? But you can also get soft, and there's this range of sound. Okay, so there was a rise and fall in your playing because of just the dynamics. Sometimes we're too busy worried about chords and notes and stuff like that. We're not thinking rise and fall. There's always an emphasis that is happening with volume, with dynamics. It happens in speech, it happens in singing when we're singing, and it should happen on our instrument, on our guitar as well. So a couple of things you can check in your own playing is, am I playing loud enough? Get used to playing loud enough, okay? Get in a place, maybe away from the family or something like that if you're going to disturb somebody, and practice playing strong and getting used to the feeling of playing strong. Okay, that works because there's some backbone behind it, because I'm playing a little bit more aggressively. So work on the loud part of your playing, and then also work on the softer end of your playing. Okay? Now there's some tricks that we've talked about in the past. If I'm strumming, how do I get a softer sound? Well, a lot of times I can play with the side of my pick. So this is full out strumming. But if I start playing with the side of my pick, it's much softer. And if you could physically see, I'm playing with the side of my pick, not the downward flat. As I was strumming there, I was loosening my grip a little bit and let the pick go to its side. So I can still get the sensation of rhythm, but it's just not very loud. And then when I want to get loud, I slowly maneuver that pick back up. I want to get softer. Side of my pick. Now, other players do it different ways. That's one of the ways I can do it. So I find if I use the point of the pick, I can't get too soft without just starting to get weak sounding. So if I go to the side of my pick, I can still have an aggressive strum, a strum that has some rhythm in it, but being able to get some quieter sounds out of it. So that's a little tip for there. So we've talked about dynamics. That's one of the ways that we can add some dimension to our playing. How you would practice that? Well, just grab your favorite chord progression. I don't care what it is. Maybe let's do an E, a G, maybe an E minor, maybe a C, a D, okay, 1, 6 minor, 4, 5, okay, and practice soft, so I still have the tempo. I'm not playing weak. You can still hear where the tempo's at. Hey, it's time to get louder. Soft. I was able to get, wow, a completely wide range of sound. Most of the time, us as players, if we're not thinking about it, our range of sound is about this. And what I'm saying is that you can definitely get a lot more louder. And if you think about it and work a little bit harder, you can get a lot softer without playing weak. I don't want to play weak. With a weak wrist, a weak grip on my pick, all of that is going to get you a weak, undefined sound. We want a real good, strong, defined sound. Okay, so that's I would suggest you grab a progression that you like and just practice loud and soft. There's all kinds of variation that you can have. I was doing just everything I was doing there with the pick. If I needed to do something a little bit softer, I added my pick and my fingers. Hey, remember that lesson we did just last week? Thumb two, thumb two, thumb two, thumb two. That's a good way to practice that. Now, the type of pick that you use is going to help give you some different types of sound too. The thicker the pick, the louder it's going to be able to get. The more flexible, I was going to say flimsy, but it's a flexibility in the pick. The softer your sound is going to be. Now it's going to glide across the strings a little bit easier, but so you don't want necessarily a thick pick all the time. If you're going to be doing a bunch of strumming, your arm will fall off from the resistance of all that sort of stuff. But so you got to find the right pick. Generally, I like Jim Dunlop's. I'm not particularly playing one right at the moment. I just grabbed a pick off the stand, but I like Jim Dunlop nylon picks. I usually go for a 77 or an 88. Okay, I think it's 73, 73 or an 88. Both of them are gray. And those are my kind of go-to picks. And lately, I kind of favored the thicker end of things. Okay, there you go. All right, so that's one thing. Dynamics, that's another thing, one thing that we can do. What's another thing that we can use to make some emotion in our playing? Well, I can add attack, how I'm attacking the note. Okay, well, if I'm strumming, okay, there's lots of things I can do. I mean, I can just strum. But if I really whack it down, that gets a different sound. That's a type of attack. If I do it a little bit further toward the back, that gets a little bit brighter sound. In the middle, that's a little bit more of a warmer sound. So know your instrument, how to get what you need to get. Another thing that I can add in regards to attack is I can add, pops and clicks in my playing and things like that. So what do I mean by that? It's a bit easier for me to illustrate it than to describe it, okay? You ready? Okay, so I went through a whole range of different picking styles and attack differentiations so that I could make different emotions happen. I kept the groove the entire time, so that didn't affect the groove at all, but here's some things that I was playing. Amidst the regular strums that I was doing kind of a downward muty. Okay, what is that? Okay, I'm muting on this hand. Literally, just putting my hand on the guitar, not fretting down, but just putting it on the strings. And I'm doing a down strum. Just try doing something like that. 2 down chords, and then a pop, a little chunk like that. I'm playing it. I'm not only muting here, but I'm muting with this fleshy part of my palm over here. Sorry. Fleshy part of my palm. So it'll take you a little bit of practice to get the right amount of force and muting on both hands to get that right click happening. But it can add so much percussiveness and aggression into your playing, and groove, really, groove, because you're kind of turning your guitar not from just a melodic harmonic instrument. I'm adding a percussive element to it. I'm turning it into a percussion instrument, okay, by just adding some of those just little pops and upstrokes and mutes and all those little things that I can add to my playing. Okay, so I can play a progression full out. And I can add these strums. Okay, do you see? I was able to add such dynamic in my playing by just playing around with the pops and clicks that I can add. Now, so how do we practice something like that? Okay, mute your strings down and just play with it. Hey, turn on the radio, turn on a groove to your favorite song, and just become a percussion instrument for a minute. There's a different sound from the lower strings to the upper strings. So that's another thing with attack. I don't have to hit all the strings at the same time. I can emphasize the lower and then the upper and lower. So you practice that a little bit. If you're unsure of how to do it, just turn on the radio, find a song, and just start clamp all your music, your fingers down. It's almost becoming a snare drum, okay? In pop music, you hear a lot of snare on 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's a way you can do it. So we've talked about dynamics, physically getting louder and softer. We've talked about attack. Okay, another thing that you can do in the attack column that I was doing is you can mute down your strings. Okay, what am I doing? I'm muting with my fleshy part of my palm right here, and you got to kind of play with it to where you don't. If I mute it too much, it just doesn't sound good at all. So you gotta, if I don't mute it at all, I kind of go off the neck. So I need to be right on that bridge, on that saddle of that bridge, just a little bit further up. Okay, so if I choke it down a little bit, so what I mean by choking it down is I'm really, really playing a very strong stroke and muting it. I've added so much dynamics to my playing, so much groove to your playing, muting. Okay, so we talked about pops and clicks and things like that. We've talked about attack with muting as well. So there's some other things that you can do there to add some dimension to your playing, to take it from just weak holding my pick, so it sounds a little undefined. Okay? Another thing I do is just a little up and down the neck. I'm not saying you're going to need to do this all the time. I'm not saying you're to do this at the candlelight service, okay, at church. It's going to be, you don't use this technique all the time, but a lot of times you need some strength. You need some confidence in your playing. The only difference between you and you plus is a little bit of confidence in your playing. And one of the key things that I see in inexperienced players is they just don't play with confidence. They don't play to be heard. You want to play your guitar to be heard. Good, bad, wrong, right. I need to play to be heard. If I'm worried about if I'm going to make a wrong note or something like that, I just don't play, and I need to play. That makes everything work when you play with confidence, okay? You need to become your own drummer, okay, with groove and things like that. Now, if you're not sure of the groove, try some of those exercises we talked about. Turn on the radio, just clamp your strings down and find the percussion sound of the instrument. That sort of things, okay? One way to start that, I have just down here in my notes, is start on one string. Let's just take this middle G. Do you see how they're not all the same? One of them is louder. So try to make even notes stick out. Dimension, 2D, 3D, adding depth to our playing. We've talked about attacks. We've talked about dynamics, okay? So there's one more thing that I can add to the mix, and that's groove or tempo. So now things that have a solid groove, a steady groove, okay? You just turn on the metronome, you turn on the drum machine, you turn on the radio, it's a solid groove, okay? It doesn't vary. The click is always click, click, click. So you can't really play with the tempo at all. Okay, so I'm not talking about those sorts of things, but I'm talking about other songs, maybe slow songs or something like that. If I add a little bit of, let's go finger style here for a little bit. Okay, so if I'm playing something sweet and pretty. Okay, so this is slow and pretty, but it's all the same tempo. There's a tempo. But what if as I'm coming around to the end of a phrase, I give a little bit I let my foot off the gas just a little bit. Just let my foot off the gas a little bit. I didn't just stop. I didn't just go. Okay, that's uninteresting. That's 2D, okay? That's flat. That's black and white. I want to add a little bit of dimension to my playing. Adding a little bit of tempo variations there. Now, you can't do this all the time. You can't do it, you can't speed up too much, but you can occasionally let your foot off the gas when you're coming around to the end of phrase, if I'm accompanying a singer or something like that. And just that little bit of a sensitivity to do that gives the listener an emotive moment, okay? Does that mean, Steve, do you mean that I have to feel something? I have to feel all emotional? No, that's the trick. That's the trick. I don't have to feel emotional to go. I'm not feeling a thing. I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat after this live lesson. I'm not thinking about any of that. Okay, but yet I created such great emotion. Why is that? It was in my attack. It was in letting the music relax for a second. play with that. Play with that in your own playing. Okay, find a progression that you like and just start playing. See if you can create those rise and falls in the music dynamically, attack-wise, and even a little bit with tempo. You don't need to do it all the time. Sometimes it gets too much and it gets annoying. Don't do that. But I mean, in other pieces, it's really pretty to do that. Sorry. Okay, flowing rubato is what we call that in the music business. So instead of just going, okay, don't play like that. Don't get used to playing like that. Work your musician muscle. Sometimes we need to exercise our musician muscle. You don't have to learn another lick. You don't have to learn another technique. You just need to exercise being a musician and enjoying the sound of your instrument. Just find a couple chords that you like. Leave some time in your practice time to make some music. Make some music. Don't always be working on things. I'm always working. You know what that makes? Terrible. That makes musicians that are only note players. Only note players. Have you ever been to some concerts and the guy's playing 1,000,000 notes and you go, wow, he's playing 1,000,000 notes. Wow, would you look at that? And you're not touched. You're not moved emotionally at all. Why is that? Because he's not exercising his musician muscle. I would rather play 5 chords and be able to create an emotion in the listener than 10,000 notes that are screaming that everybody's going to forget as soon as they walk out of the room. Okay? Don't be that. Why do people not remember the gazillions of notes that are played in some rock solo, but they do remember some little simple rhythmic line that started a song? Why do we remember that and we don't remember all that stuff that's going on? Because the ear gravitates toward patterns. The ear gravitates toward things that are moving it emotionally. Okay? That's what you want. So you have to work on that. You have to work on that skill. It's an important skill to be able to sit down with your instrument and go, okay, there you go. That was just a little song Lagrima, a classical guitar piece. But it doesn't work if you just play the notes. Hey, there, I played it. No, you didn't play it at all. You didn't touch me. You didn't touch my emotions. Okay. My good friend David Moyes used to be the guitar player for Air Supply. Remember the 80s rock band Air Supply? And he was their guitar player for many years. He tells the story about how he was playing in some club and had his eyes closed. He's playing some solo and the club owner comes up to him and he's got his eyes closed. So the club owner comes right in front of him and he opens his eyes. It kind of startles him because the guy's right in front of him and he's saying, "Speak to me! Speak to me! Play something that is speaking to me." That's important. That's one thing we want to do. We don't just want to play a solo. I want to speak. I want to say something musically that matters, okay? Not just notes. Okay, so we've talked about dynamics, loud and soft. We've talked about attack and muting and clicks and pops and soft and in our attack and strumming softly, things like that. We've also talked about creating emotion by tempo and by a touch on the instrument, things like that. So these are some ways, practical musical ways that you can build a dimension in your playing to take you from this nobody wants to hear that. C, F, and G. They want to hear something like hey, same chords I just played, but suddenly I've got a groove, I've got an attack, I've got dimension to my playing, okay? Experiment with these things. Adding some notes louder than others, some strums louder than others, things like that. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Learn all you can. Work on adding some dimension, some color, some depth to your playing, to where when you play, it speaks to the listener. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. We'll see you next time.